And we are live, Senators.
Thank you. So this is the Senate Health and Welfare continuing our meeting today, and we're looking at S89. Just to back up and then bring us up to where we are with this proposal amendment. After our conversation in here, I did meet with Department of Mental Health and Katie DeClin, Ledge Council, and put together some language that I think reflects the discussions that we were having in committee. And then I've also talked with Senator Sears, so he knows that in Judiciary that this is coming. And I think, Katie, they're looking at this after we look at it this morning. Okay, so we're all getting to be on the same page. And then Eric Fitzpatrick checked in, and we can't have committee on health and welfare, which is unfortunate, but after we go through it, maybe everyone in the committee would like to be on it. We can do that. That's just a minor detail.
Oh,
Yeah, anyway.
okay.
So why don't you remind us what we have in front of us?
Okay, I'm getting a funny error message from Zoom. That's what I'm hesitating about.
Oh, no, you
I
don't
don't
want
know
that.
what's going on there.
I have a copy. You just gave me a copy.
Okay, Katie McGinnis, the Legislative Council. So we're looking at Amendment 1.1. This is instances of amendments.
So
So
I met
it's-
with Dale as well, and I should have said that.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is instances of amendment, which if you're wanting to follow along exactly how different sections sort of slot into the Senate Judiciary Committee report, you'll have to flip between the two documents. The first instance of amendment inserts a new reader assistance heading in a new section 1. So we're adding our purpose section here. It is the purpose of this act to enable the commissioners of mental health and of disabilities, aging and independent living to seek treatment and programming for certain individuals in a forensic facility. An initial forensic facility shall be located in the 9-bed unit of the current Vermont Psychiatric Care Hospital. This unit shall be relicensed as a therapeutic community residence. And then we're renumbering what is currently section 1 to be section 1A. Then in the second instance of amendment, this is to correct a typo. There's an extra "the" in one of the sentences, so we're striking out the word "the." Thank you. You're welcome.
Good catch.
Next, we're in the third instance of amendment. We're adding a new reader assistance heading, and we're adding 2 new sections, section 20 and 21 after section 19. So they're called presentation and report. First is the presentation in section 20. On or before February 1st of 2024, the departments of DMH and Dale shall jointly present the following information to the House Committee on Human Services and to the Senate Committee on Health and Welfare. A plan for staffing and programming at the forensic facility, including whether any specialized training will be required for staff members and whether any services provided at the forensic facility will be contracted to third parties. A plan for the joint management of the forensic facility by the departments, and whether any additional resources are needed for the operation of the forensic facility. And then in the new section 21, we have a report. Annually on or before January 15th, between the years 2025 and 2030, 5 years of reports, the Department of Mental Health and Dale shall jointly submit a report to the policy committees containing the average daily census at the forensic facility, including trends over time, the number of individuals waitlisted for the forensic facility and where these individuals receive treatment or programming while waiting for a bed at the forensic facility. Third, aggregated demographic data about the individuals served at the forensic facility. And lastly, an account of the number and types of emergency and voluntary procedures used at the forensic facility. And then we're renumbering the final section to be 22.
That's an annual report?
It's an annual report, but it's time limited. So it only comes back for 5 years instead of ongoing forever.
Okay. Why wouldn't we want to have that information available more often?
You could.
That would be something I'd like. to see.
Well, right now it's time limited. We'll put it in and we'll see whether we can encourage the House to extend it. How's that?
Okay.
Yeah, unless you want to make a change right now. What's the committee think?
I would just say that if we're gonna make it permanent, that we sort of encompass it into a report that's already happening, so it's not like
That's a good
another
idea. I
report,
think
you
let's,
know.
yeah,
We ask for so many reports.
So much
I
stuff.
don't wanna-
but this will get us started at least to understand what's going on and then maybe what else we need out in the community, because we don't know where these people are. We don't know the extent of the charges against them. We know that they have to be determined to be using insanity as a defense to be in the facility, whether they are under the supervision of Dale or under the supervision of DMH. So,
We're in confidence.
yeah, or incompetence, which leads them into that. So, which is narrow, but we don't want it to be broad.
Right. Is this, that type of information something that the auditor of accounts would, or the
So the
auditor's office?
departments, the department, DMH, and possibly Dale would be collecting this information, and the facility itself would be providing the information. So who's directed to give the report? They're the ones that would be responsible for collecting it.
Thank you.
Questions of Katie, comments? We're good? Who does not want to be on this?
I'm fine with it.
You okay with it?
Yeah.
Good.
It's pretty
Good. Okay, we're good.
low-key.
So all of us,
I'll read
So
the
the-
introduction.
all the usual suspects.
Okay.
And then, and I have a list of witnesses we've heard from for each of these, and I'll just speak to each one as we go through the bill on the floor. Not a big deal out of it. Hopefully, the Judiciary Committee will agree with what we have here.
Are they doing that as we speak?
They're gonna be doing it next. They wanted us to go through it, well, wanted us to look at it before they looked at it. So now they'll be looking at it and rendering an opinion, but it is within our jurisdiction, so we'll hope that they agree with our,
It's on the calendar for today.
pardon me?
It's on the calendar for today.
Yeah, it's been for a
That's why
while.
I'm trying to push it ahead. I asked for relief. I asked for it to be passed over until today. So that's why we're looking at it.
Got
Got it. Okay, that's great. Thank you all. I mean, these are difficult bills for us because it's a whole new area, but there's a lot going on out there in the real world around mental illness and disabilities. And so we want to begin to understand the world that we're dealing with, both in the judiciary as well as in Dale and DMH. And we want to be able to do the best we can for the people who are affected by mental illness or who have a disability and demonstrate behaviors that are, you know, contrary to law. So that's where we are with those, and thank you. And we're opening up a whole area that we're going to have to be more involved in going forward. What is next on our agenda today?
We're
So-
ahead of schedule, Madam Chair.
Huh?
We're ahead of schedule.
I know, so we're going back to normal.
H 94.
So we have H94, we have Jubilee McGill coming in, and so we'll hold off until 11 and go through that. Are there any comments from folks around the room that you would like to share before we go offline on 89 or 91?
Yes.
Go ahead, for the record, sure. Brief, very brief.
Oh, I will be brief for the record.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Susan Aronoff, and I do policy work for the Vermont Developmental Disabilities Council. All 50 states and territories have a council. We're almost entirely federally funded. In exchange for receiving the federal funding, the state of Vermont through the Secretary of the Agency of Human Services, has to execute a memorandum of understanding that prevents the state from interfering with the council's advocacy. So I always like to get this out on the table before I begin to say a single word, because I am an Agency of Human Services employee. My email always says vermont.gov, and the Vermont Secretary of the Agency of Human Services has a policy that prevents state employees from taking positions, public positions, on issues in the course of their employment that are contrary to the positions of the Agency of Human Services. So I am a state employee. I work for a council that is a majority of people with disabilities and their family members. And I just want to say we have not taken a position on S89 or 91. However, I do have and did bring copies of our legislative platform and of some information introducing the council, because I haven't spoken to this committee yet this session. Want you to know we are available to help you with questions that you might get from constituents. I think a lot of you have encountered the Parents Housing Group. We're working very closely with Housing Group as a result of their advocacy. Last year was Act 186. The council had a special role in Act 186 to create a housing report that looks at the needs of service-supported housing for Vermonters with disabilities. I've emailed you a copy. There's some paper, because we don't care about trees, we care about people. No, we care about trees too. We actually care more about people. I'm a former environmental law lawyer, and I switched because I really think the people in Vermont, poor people in particular, people with disabilities, it's a hard place to live. The mission of DALE, the department, is to make Vermont the best state in the country in which to grow old or live with a disability. This is March, Developmental Disability Awareness Month. March 2023, we closed Brandon 30 years ago. I can tell you 100 families right now wish there was a Brandon. That breaks my heart. I've spent my career helping people get out of institutions and live successfully in the community. We have 100 people entitled to Vermont's Developmental Disability Services, which is a hard pool to get into. 100 of them in hotels and motels right now because there's no housing. So I was on the forensic committee. I could talk a lot about forensic facilities. I've worked in a lot of them. I've seen abuse and neglect. Like I said, my council doesn't have a position on that. What do we have a position on? Housing, 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 and more housing. Like yesterday, if you invite, I think you're going to be doing a joint hearing on the housing report.
Yes, we are.
So I won't take up any more time.
Yeah, so no, I think what you said is extremely helpful, and we will be, as long as we will be identifying time to work with Senate Economic Development on a joint hearing
And
around
then
housing.
the final thing, and I will leave the table,
Please.
is the top issue in our platform is oversight. And right now I'm talking about oversight in the community, but oversight in facilities is just as important, if not more. But oversight in the community. Last year, the House put in increased requirements in the bill that became Act 186 for increased oversight for developmental disability services. They didn't fund the positions, so Senate appropriations took them out. You guys, thank you, Senator Harvey, for being on the conference committee, said come up with a report and tell us about oversight.
That was a good.
Yes. The report, unfortunately, our department's under one plan of correction because we don't play by the CMS rule. We're going to be under a couple more. The recommendation of the report was we're not going to do anything. We're not going to include any new positions. There were none in the governor's budget. We're going to wait for CMS to tell us what to do. I'm sorry. People are dying. Families are scared. It's bad out there. The House, the budget that just came out of House appropriations, thank you, has 9 positions. $500,000 general fund, $1 million gross. The House Human Services Committee wrote a memo supporting that. We hope that your committee will do something similar, and I'd be happy to come back anytime and talk about the needs for oversight. Well, thank you for your service. And I want to thank you, Madam Chair. I've heard you during the discussions of 89 and 91 ask repeatedly about what about the people with developmental disabilities? What about competence? It doesn't apply. What about this? What about that? And I thank you so much for your question and for the opportunity to speak. And
Thank you. We'll see you again. I know we will. Appreciate your time. Thank you. So now we'll take a 10-minute break. We're gonna go off on, take a 10-minute break.